Would you help me? Let's give him a big LeTourneau welcome, Mr. Doug Lawler.
Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for that kind introduction, President Lunsford. It's a pleasure to be here with you today, and I want you to know up front, graduates, that I'm not standing in front of you as a CEO of a company. I'm standing in front of you as a fellow Christian and a fellow servant of Christ. The things I'm going to share with you today, I hope one or two things will stick with you as you go forward and remember in the future. I'll tell you that in my graduation speeches, whether at Rice or in my engineering degree at Mines, I don't remember much about it, but I know the excitement. I'm just happy to be here with you, and I have a few things that I wish someone would have told me when I graduated. And so that's the direction that I'd like to go with you. The first thing I want you to know, and I think it's very important to highlight, is the blessing that the station that you have earning a degree from this fine institution today. You are already ahead. Your faith, those that have taught you, your professors and the faculty here at LeTourneau University, your parents, your family, and what you've accomplished here has already positioned you to be very successful. What I encourage you to do, though, is to continue to learn and not to deviate from the faith and the faith-based principles that you've established here. It'll prove so critical to you in your career. A few things that I wish someone would have told me when I graduated. First, that there isn't anyone when you go to work that sits inside a building in a city in a corner office that is planning your future. You own your future. You own your career. You own your development. Don't put your faith, your trust, or your confidence in any one person or any one company to secure and to guarantee your future. There is no entitlement. You have to work hard. You have to stay focused, just as you have in the past several years here at LeTourneau. Good things come to those who work hard. I think it's important when you start your careers, don't focus on the next job. Focus on the job you're doing now. In my career, the best opportunities came to me unexpectedly. I never planned for it. I did the best I could in the capacity that I was assigned, and I tried to perform in a manner which would have been worthy, that promotion would have been considered, but I never expected it. I think it's important to note also that you have to continue to seek to improve your sphere or expand your sphere of influence. And what do I mean by that? It means by reaching out to others, by continuing to grow your faith, by touching others' lives in any way that you can. Expanding your sphere of influence is what, as Christians, we're called to do. But it's also important in your professional life as you reach out to others that you continue to grow and expand your influence. It's very important that you maintain and you continue to grow in your learning. As an engineer, I thought I had it all pretty well figured out. And the more I learned, the more I realized, as you've heard before, the less I really understood. I augmented or supplemented my education by getting an MBA, something that I think for those that are in engineering or those that are in business, continuing to learn, continuing to look for opportunities to improve yourself, to improve your education and expand your sphere of influence are something that we should all stay focused on. Maintain that spirit, maintain that focus to continuously improve. As the President noted, I've been all around the world. I've been in Asia, I've been in Africa, Europe, and I'll tell you that I've seen a lot of different things. I've seen poverty and suffering. I've seen economic and government impacts that have been quite significant on local people and individuals that are not blessed to have had the benefit that you have had. I will also tell you that the values recognized in the rest of the world are not what you recognize here today. And it's important to note because you will not realize how important and what the blessing it is to have been at this great institution until you're in an environment where they do not have the same values that you have. When I went to Chesapeake about a year ago, I came to a company that has accomplished many, many great things, but was in a financial and an operational challenging position, one in which I consider to be the greatest challenge in the entire oil and gas industry. In coming there, one of the things I realized is that the company didn't have a set of core values. And why are core values important? Core values, whether they're based on our Christian faith or whether they're just simply looked at as the fabric in which we live, are essential in any organization. These core values that I sought to institute at Chesapeake is a way or a method in which I was trying to expand a sphere of influence. How are we going to live? What are our expectations of each other? It's important as the CEO of the company that every employee knows exactly how I'm going to behave. They know exactly what I'm committed to, and they understand and they can trust that I will not deviate from that behavior. Now, that certainly doesn't mean that we don't make mistakes and we don't run into difficult situations, but these core values are the fabric that bind us together. And they are essentially faith-based, although it's in a public company. And they are also the yardstick that I measure the employees and also a way for them to measure me. And I'd like to share those with you because they're very important. The first is integrity and trust. Integrity and trust is one that's very common. You see it in those of you that have had careers or been a part of organizations that have a strong value system. Integrity and trust is a fairly boilerplate type of core value. But why it's important to you with what you've earned and the advantage that you have today coming from this institution is to note that your reputation, your faith, and your influence on others is valuable, and it is very important. It's critical that others see that in you and can trust and be confident in you. The second is respect. Again, it's another boilerplate type of core value, but respect goes beyond just the common word. Respect includes our environment, the things that we do to protect the environment from our business activities. It's respect for your fellow employees and the community and how we protect employees and safety and making sure that they're safe and they return home safely every day from their job. It's respect for others, respect for discipline, people that come from different educational backgrounds. It's important to note that regardless of where you come from, regardless of being from this institution, you can learn from others. Never climb a second learning curve if you don't have to. Use and work the network that you have, the friends, utilize the information, utilize the groups, seek and continuously look to improve so that you don't have to spend time or energy or money learning something that you could have captured from your friends or from those around you. Transparency and open communication are the third core value, and for me, and particularly in a personal respect, why this is so important, is that others need to know how I'll behave. Others need to know and see my faith. Others need to know my heart. Don't be afraid to share your faith. Don't be afraid to share your heart. People are going to be looking at you in different capacities because of the reputation of the university. People will recognize LeTourneau University. They know the heritage that you come from. They know the strength of your background and the strength of the faith of this institution. Make sure that company that you don't deviate from that. I also will highlight one that I call commercial focus. This is the fourth value. Commercial focus means that every single person has an opportunity to influence the finances and the health of an organization. But importantly, on a personal level, it means being a good steward of what God's entrusted you with, whether it be your own personal finances or whether it be an institution or a company's finances. We handle several millions of dollars every single day, and we have to be a good steward of that. It's not my money, it's the shareholders' money, it's the company's money. On the individual level, if you think about it, if you make $5 and you spend $4.99, you'll be happy. If you make $5 and you spend $5, you're going to be stressed. And if you make $5 and you spend $10, you're going to be sad and foolish. And it's not sustainable. Be wise with your employer's money and be wise with your own, and be a good, faithful steward of the money that God has blessed you with. The last core value that I want to talk about is one that's extremely important to me, and it's what I call change leadership. And change leadership has several different meanings to a lot of different people, but to me it's really anchored in servant leadership and really focused on three different types of people that I believe exist. These three types of people I see every single day in my professional life. I see it in my personal life. I see it in my family. And each of you will relate to what I'm about to describe to you. The first type of person is the victim. And the victim is the person that comes to you and says, I can't change this outcome. This is someone else's problem. Here's the excuse, the reason why. It won't work. Tried that, won't work. The victim is someone that can't elevate a solution. They elevate a problem. The second person is a manager. The manager comes to my office and says, you ask for X and I give you X. They deliver exactly what you expect. There's nothing wrong with that. We need managers. We need that type of people. But what we're really striving for is the third person. And the third type of person is the change leader. The change leader is the one that says, my personal contribution, individually or within a team or in a group, I can influence a better outcome. I can make a difference. I will elevate a solution. I will deliver X plus. When asked for X, I will give you X plus. The change leader is one that is always focused on delivering greater value. Despite our best efforts, and particularly for those of you that are getting ready to start out in your careers, those of us in the audience that have had a few years of working and experience to know that things do not always go the way we planned. Things do not always turn out as we expected. From the book of Matthew, chapter 7, I'm going to read something that all of you will recognize and know very well. Therefore, everyone who hears these words of mine and puts them into practice is like a wise man who built his house on the rock. The rain came down, the streams rose, and the winds blew and beat against that house. Yet it did not fall, because it had its foundation on the rock. But everyone who hears these words of mine and does not put them into practice is like a foolish man who built his house on sand. The rain came down, the streams rose, and the winds blew and beat against that house, and it fell with a great crash. So we all know that story very well. The key thing that I want to share with you today is this. The winds will blow. The streams will rise. Challenges, whether it be personal, financial, relationship-wise, are going to come your way. The thing that will sustain you through those experiences is your faith in God. When I was 27 years old, I was in Lafayette, Louisiana. I had a drilling engineering position with Kerr McGee in the Gulf of Mexico. I was having the best time of my life. My wife and I had just had a little girl. It was an exciting time and a fun time. We were taking Cajun dancing lessons and enjoying all the things, Cajun food and crawfish and all those things that you can imagine in Louisiana. But shortly after our little girl was born, my wife started having headaches, and the frequency of those headaches increased and the intensity increased. And when she was 5 weeks old, my first wife was diagnosed with brain cancer. And that brain cancer, after 3 years of chemotherapy, brain surgeries, intense radiation, and experimental protocols, resulted in taking her life. As painful and as difficult as that was, I knew that that was God's will for her life. And I don't share that with you just on a down note. I share it with you that it was through that time and on my knees that I prayed that God would sustain me, so that I would be the father that I needed to be to that little girl. That God would sustain me and help me because I could not do it on my own. And those storm winds blew. And explaining to a little girl that her mother had gone to heaven to be with Jesus was an extremely difficult thing to do, and one in which at a very young age you'd never expect to have to do. During that time, I got a call from a vice president to help and encourage me. This man, his name is Bud McGuire. He's a board member here and a graduate of LeTourneau University. And he highlighted to me at that time, not only did he pray with me, but he also highlighted Romans 8:28, which I think is important to note at this time. In all things, God works for the good of those who love him. He said, Doug, I know this is going to be a difficult time for you as you work through it. But the key in that verse, just like that the storm winds will blow, is that God works for those that love him. And God will continue to work for you. I encourage you to maintain your faith. There are going to be things that happen that you can't control, and fate is something we cannot control. There's a really great book by Dr. Viktor Frankl, who's a psychiatrist, doctor of psychology and psychiatry that was imprisoned during World War II in the concentration camps in Germany. And during that experience of untold suffering that we all are aware of and have heard of, he recorded and then ultimately wrote a book called Man's Search for Meaning that I'd encourage you to read if you ever have the opportunity. It's an excellent book. And what he says in that book is that you control your attitude. It's one of the last human freedoms that we have. You control your attitude, and you also control your faith. He highlights in there a story that's called Death in Tehran. The story in Death in Tehran goes like this. A rich Persian landowner was walking in his garden one day, and one of his servants ran up to him and said, Master, Master, may I please have the fastest horse so that I may flee to Tehran, for I have encountered death in the garden. And the master said, Most certainly take my fastest horse and flee to Tehran. And later that evening, or later that afternoon, the master himself was walking in the garden again, and he ran into death. And he said to death, he lashed out at him and said, "How dare you scare and frighten my faithful servant?" And death responded, rather surprised, and said to the master, "I wasn't trying to scare your servant. I was only surprised because I planned to meet him tonight in Tehran." And the point in that is that we do not know what God's will for our life may be. What's important is that we continue in all aspects of our life to be faithful, regardless of our position, regardless of our station, that we maintain the faith, that we continue to look for how we can expand our sphere of influence, how we can help others, how we can be of service to others. As I go forward today, I encourage you to find the gift in adversity when it comes your way. How can you expand your sphere of influence and help others through those experiences? I will tell you that the blessings of my life at this point have been wonderful. I have remarried. I have triplet daughters that are three girls that are 8 years old. I have a son that's 6 years old. And in addition to that, one of God's blessings that is still hard to figure out at 47, we've been blessed. My wife is expecting again. And so with what will be 6 children, God sustained me through that difficult time and cared for me. And despite all of my best efforts, I couldn't have done any of it, professional, personal, family, without him, and without his strength, and without his help. I have 3 parting messages for you that I hope that you'll remember. The first is you own your career. You own your future. It's your responsibility. You will be tested. The second is don't be a victim. Elevate solutions. Look for ways that you can cooperatively produce a better outcome because of your involvement. You've got an excellent start with your education here. Use that to your advantage. Use that to continue to benefit others. And the third is seek God's will in your life and be faithful. I'm very excited for you today. I look forward to hearing the good things that will come from this graduating class and from future classes from LeTourneau University. Graduates, congratulations. I wish you the very best. Thank you.
In honor of the first graduating class to earn the Bachelor of Healthcare Management, Dr. Brian Schneider, Director of Healthcare Management Programs, will join the Dean in recognizing the following graduate. Stephen Andrew Merckx.
Now, graduates, it's my privilege to induct you into the LeTourneau University Alumni Association. Would you please move your tassels? God bless you.